So Ukraine sent a number of drones, over 100, to menace Russia in 10 oblasts last night. And what Russia did was a lot less. And that sounds good, but it's actually problematic. And I'll explain why in just a little bit. Let's look at this and start here with the drone attacks that spanned 10 Russian oblasts as Azot plant was targeted. Russia intercepted 105 drones overnight as well. It depends on who you read. Some places I saw 105, some I saw 110 drones overnight as attacks hit the Nevenomyssk Azot chemical plant, which supplies material for the artillery shell production. And this was the second time in 2 months that they hit this particular place. Okay, Anton Goroshenko posted this. It was not just that plant that was attacked in Stavropol, region of Russia, working for the needs of the Russian defense industry, but also a gunpowder plant was attacked in Tambov region. Explosions were also heard in Tangarod and Novocherkassk, Rostov. At least 8 Russian airports were closed as a consequence of what was happening here. So a lot was going on last night. Overnight, again, this Azot plant, one of Russia's largest explosive manufacturing plants, was hit. And then we saw that the Ukrainian drones reportedly targeted Pokrovsk powder plant linked to Russian military production. So a lot was going on last night. Ukraine launched its largest drone attack last night on Stavropol region, targeting this chemical plant that supplied explosives. This was interesting. Overnight, a Ukrainian attack drone successfully struck the Nevenomyssk Azot plant. But here in this, the plant produces up to 1 million tons of ammonia and more than 1 million tons of ammonium nitrate annually. So when you're seeing that, you're recognizing that there's something more going on. It's not just that they're targeting this industrial park here or that there. This is the moment of arrivals and occupied Donetsk. The strikes reportedly targeted near a coal mine where Russian forces were gathered. So that was a good hit as well. And in Rostov region, a drone attack targeted a railway station. Such strikes severely complicate Russian logistics, especially supply routes toward Donetsk and the Mariupol access. And we don't think about why that's important, but it turns out that's important. All right. Meanwhile, what were the Russians doing to the Ukrainians? That's what the Ukrainians were doing to the Russians overnight. In Kharkiv, a Russian guided bomb hit tuberculosis clinic. 12 people injured. People may be trapped under the rubble. The munition hit the roof of a tuberculosis clinic where 13 patients and 15 medical staff were present at the time. According to the police, 12 people injured. The fate of several others are trapped under the debris remains unknown. In addition to the clinic, 9 private homes and nearby vehicles were damaged. The reason I'm showing you this is to study in contrast. It's really odd to see just how much the Ukrainians are going after military and logistics targets, and the Russians every night they're now. It's not that they don't hit logistics targets, but they also are wantonly going after civilians as well. So what are they doing? 63 either drones or missiles last night. 2 Iskander ballistic missiles, 61 Shahed-type decoy drones. Ukrainian Air Force air defense successfully shot down or suppressed 54, so 7 drones hit 4 locations. That's what the Russians did last night. Now, when you couple that with 42 the night before and 71 last night, or not last night, the night before last, and then 63 last night, you're thinking, uh-oh, they're saving up for a rainy day. Now, I'm not going to do this again and predict when it's going to happen, but it will happen that there's going to be a massive Russian barrage. I'm not sure when, but they're saving up for it. They could put out 150 or more every day if they wanted to, and they're not. So something's coming. Okay, meanwhile, on the battlefield, 980 Russian soldiers off the battlefield day over day. That's lower than where we've been. 3 tanks, 5 armored fighting vehicles, 31 artillery systems, 76 vehicles and fuel tanks. And if we look at Ragnar Gudmundsson's dashboard, we see engagements remain above, casualties remain below the 7-day average. It's pretty interesting to see how this is working out. Strike ratio increased, but remains below average. So when we look at what's going on in Pokrovsk, for example, in Pokrovsk direction, Russian fascist invaders conducted 43 assaults. 43 assaults. That's a pretty high percentage out of the 174 combat engagements recorded along the front line in the past 24 hours. So that's Pokrovsk is the high water mark. This is where the real action is. Now, the situation on one of the flanks has severely deteriorated as of today, and unfortunately, there appears to be a degree of underreporting or downplaying of the situation at the official level. Now, why would that be? Well, okay, so when I'm reporting to you official public information. It's nothing like I'm not telling you anything I shouldn't be telling that everybody doesn't know. I'm just aggregating this. And so there's a delay here, 24 hours, 48 hours before we find out what's going on, so that the Russians don't have an extra edge by knowing, oh, well, this area is weak or that area is strong or whatever. So part of it could be that. That also happens with the official maps. Okay, now I want to point out something that's really important here. Reported Russian advance on the top of the anti-tank ditches around Pokrovsk. The advance is contained within the first line of dugouts. Okay, so if we look at this, let me zoom in a little bit. Here's Pokrovsk and its sister city. And if Pokrovsk falls, let's say that something happens and Pokrovsk falls, I mean, it's not game over. Pokrovsk is kind of like Bakhmut. It's nice to have, but it's not going to be a strategic destruction of Ukraine. It's tactically makes it harder. Absolutely, sure, no doubt. But look at all these lines of defensive works behind Pokrovsk. So even if they can capture this, they have to go through all this to get to the other side. Okay, it's bad. We don't want Pokrovsk to fall, but it's not game over if Pokrovsk falls. Now, remember, it's July 25th as I'm talking about this right now. I talked about this back in July of 2024, like, uh-oh, I think Pokrovsk is in trouble. I see the Russians making this advance toward Pokrovsk. They might have it by August. Oh no, I hope General Winter comes soon, right? So the Ukrainians, don't underestimate the Ukrainians. They're really impressive in what they've been able to do. Meanwhile, we want to talk about what's going on in Sumy. Remember the northern access in Sumy? We were talking about Sumy before as if like, uh-oh, the Russians are really going to push from Sumy into and take Sumy city, and then it's going to be a big mess. That offensive is stalled. The Russian Sumy offensive stalls after repeated counterattacks drain manpower without territorial gains. So isn't that interesting that that's what's happening here with Sumy? And then here, this is also some interesting video. Let me zoom out a little bit for you. Near the village of Popyar in Donetsk Oblast, Ukraine's Baba Yaga drone, that's the kind of drones that we were raising money for in the last campaign that would ferry ammunition, food, and medical supplies up to the front so that soldiers don't have to go back. They can also do things like this. The Baba Yaga drone is devastating Russian troop shelters using heavy TM-62 anti-tank mine. So they're going to drop this mine into this hole here, and well, here's the aftermath of the thing. It goes boom. There it is. And here's the before picture of it. We're going to watch the mine drop, and then we're going to kind of watch it fly away. Whoops. Let's not have the music playing. There we go. Yep, there it goes flying away and getting away from it. And what happens is this big boom on the other side. Okay, drones are really important. I keep talking about this. I can't shut up about drones. I know sometimes maybe you would want to, but let's watch this. Every day, the 43rd Separate Mechanized Brigade hunts the eyes and weapons of the occupiers in the skies. So drones are going after drones, trying to knock down their reconnaissance so that they can't see. Drones meant to spy, correct artillery, or strike our defenders' positions or turn to wreckage. Okay, notice how they attack them, from the top or from behind. So I want you to see that because I want you to see this. Russian interceptions of Ukrainian reconnaissance UAVs are increasing. It's important to install countermeasures such as rear-facing cameras. So right now, they might not have those on their drones, or rear-facing cameras. And with a rear-facing camera, this would look different because it would start looking like drone-on-drone dogfights. Now, we haven't seen very many of them because they don't come at each other from the front, generally speaking. Okay. It started working again. What started working again? Starlink. Starlink was down for a couple of hours. Starlink has reportedly gone offline across the entire front line, according to Robert Brovy, that's Magyar, the commander of the Ukraine's unmanned system forces. The cause remains unknown, but the disruption is already impacting frontline operations. Being dependent on Starlink is problematic. They need some kind of backup to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now, this was also reported in the Kyiv Post. Major global outage in Starlink on the evening of July 24th knocked out connectivity for Ukrainian forces across the entire front line. Service was restored after roughly 2.5 hours. I don't see conspiracy theory, but you probably need to have a backup here. Okay, Navy Day parade in St. Petersburg. The Russians have called off their Navy Day parade. It's probably a good thing. If you're the Russians, you don't want to really get yourself into a situation where you have a huge black eye because a sitting duck kind of target was destroyed by the Ukrainians with some kind of sabotage, like a spiderweb kind of sabotage. So St. Petersburg authorities have called off, officially announced that they've called off the 27 July Navy Day parade. It would not take place. But just minutes later, part of the statement mysteriously vanished. The city's transport committee deleted the entire section mentioning the parade's cancellation. The post now only refers to navigation restrictions on waterways, and officials later confirmed that the parade is indeed canceled. Yeah, that would have had a big black eye if something went wrong. Okay. I'm showing you this because I keep hearing about Patriot missiles. Well, when will they get there? Patriot launchers, when will they get there? They'll get there. Oh, it won't be till spring before they get there. Okay. According to the Telegraph, a Patriot air defense system and interceptor missiles were likely delivered to Ukraine last week as part of a U.S.-Germany deal. The report suggests this transfer happened quietly. I can't confirm it other than that the Telegraph reported it. Now, the Telegraph is legitimate enough that it's worth reporting on, but I can't find it confirmed in other places that don't refer back to the Telegraph. So it's only independently verified in one source, and I try to find multiple sources before I bring you something. But if this is true, that's pretty significant. Now, others will take longer to get there, certainly, but that would be significant. Germany is also delivering another Irish T. This was previously pledged, but Irish Ts are no joke. So this will bring the total to 8 Irish Ts, according to Ukraine's ambassador in Berlin. Now, Russians are not going away. They're not going quietly. They want to keep this fight going. It's pretty clear. So Russia plans to reallocate 2 more trillion rubles. That's about $25 billion toward the war. This means that there'll be less money spent on social expenditures, but Russians aren't going away. They're committed to this war. To show you how committed they are, Russia is forming a Ukrainian battalion of captured Ukrainian military personnel who refuse to be exchanged. Now, I don't know that I believe that all of these guys have refused to be exchanged. I would imagine that on paper they have refused to be exchanged and they're staying and because they don't want to die or be tortured, but they're going to be used to fight against Ukrainians. They're Ukrainians who were POWs in Russia, and yeah, so they're forming this battalion right now. Even worse, they're doing this. Russians sending kidnapped Ukrainian children who are now turning 18 to the front line in Ukraine. It's estimated to be in the thousands. Remember, they stole tens of thousands of Ukrainian children. Ukrainian soldiers discovered the Ukrainian teenagers' corpses on the battlefields. These kids would have been 14, 15, 16, 17, 14 or older at the time of their abduction in 2022. Think about that. And they're taking your children. Think about if they were taking your children from you and then using them to fight you. Like, that's what the Russians are doing. Now, a couple updates I want to show you. Yesterday, I talked about this. July 21st marked 85 years since the establishment of the Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian SSR, Soviet Socialist Republics. Against their will, they were forced to become part of the Soviet Union. Despite the significant advantage of large-scale Soviet investments and subsidies, these nations have been reduced to Europe's economic periphery today, says Zakharova, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia. And I said, I don't think that's the case. I think they're doing pretty well. And then I saw this. Yeah, they're doing pretty well. Real change in wages in European countries between 1994 and 2024, percentage of terms. And then I ChatGPT'd it just to make sure like I was seeing what I was seeing. And here's what it looks like. Russia, 3% growth, or 3 times growth rather, it's 200% growth since 1994. Latvia, 3.7, that's 270%. Lithuania, 4 times, that's 300%. Estonia, 4.5 times, that's 350%. Poland, 8 times growth, that's 690%. Yeah, as opposed to Russia's 200%. What they're talking about here, that's absolute Philistine pig ignorance. All right. I talked about this as well yesterday. China covertly sends drone engines to Russia in cooling units to evade sanctions. And I talked about it like, well, so if I was looking at this, I wouldn't know that that's not a cooling engine. And like it was labeled as like a refrigerator part. I wouldn't know. I just don't understand what it is. But that's how they're getting away with doing what they're doing. Meanwhile, Che Bao said this: "Dear Europeans and Americans, what did you get for the $300 billion that you sent to Ukraine and making mobs?" That's Keith Kellogg's daughter replied. 1 million Russian casualties, 4,000 tanks, 21,000 pieces of military equipment. And before someone calls me a warmonger, they started it. It's true. They started it. Okay, last little thing before I show you Jake Bro's update of where they are. It was at 677,000 yesterday. I'll show you what it is now. On this day, 1932, USSR signed a non-aggression pact with Poland. 7 years later, we violated it because we preferred the one with the Nazis that had a secret clause. But please trust us over treaties now because we've honored them all since then. Just ask Ukraine and Georgia and Moldova. Right? Okay. And again, when we talk about what's going on, we talk about these in large numbers, but it's not just large numbers. There are human beings involved in every place, like human beings on the front line that have to defend their homeland. And again, it's a good day when the enemy's in front of you and your family's behind you. Okay, Jake Bro Save the Donkeys is now up to $736,000 to $736,224. That's on $1 million campaign. If you wish to contribute to that, I will leave the link below. So that's where we are today. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.